The NDSU Bison men's basketball team surprised a lot of people this season by making the NCAA tournament and actually putting up a pretty decent test against #1 seed Duke. We're joined by NDSU Bison Illustrated, editor Nolan Schmidt. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And so, I know last time we talked a little bit about how this really wasn't supposed to be a year where they were going to compete for a tournament spot. Why is that?
Yeah, I mean, I think this team is really young when you look at it on paper. No seniors. Obviously, when you look at a roster and see that there are no veterans, no seniors on the roster, kind of jumps out that, well, maybe they need an extra year to develop and we'll come back next year and everybody will have a year of experience under their belt. But as we saw as the season went on this year, they don't need any seniors, obviously, because, I mean, they made their way through the Summit League tournament and put up a really good fight against Duke.
Yeah, that game was a lot of fun to watch. The first half was kind of shocking. What was their biggest lead, 8, 10 points?
Yeah, I think so. And then it was only a 4-point game, heading into halftime. So, I mean, if you're an NDSU fan and you're only down by 4 to the Duke Blue Devils and their illustrious, tradition of basketball, you have to feel pretty good about yourself.
I mean, you saw Zion Williamson. He is just an athletic freak.
I don't think I've seen an athlete quite like that in my time. At least, I've watched a lot of basketball.
The one where he stole the ball and then almost slipped and still dribbled around the guy, that was crazy.
Well, I think there was a point in the second half where he scored 8 or 10 points in a 4-minute span. Like, that just doesn't happen. You have to be a pretty good player to do that.
So they put up a really good fight against some very stiff competition. As an expert on Bison athletics, I mean, how surprising was it to see them get this far this year?
I don't think it was necessarily surprising. We're lucky enough to be surrounded by this team and the coaching staff and the players the entire season. So we get to see them develop and mature and grow. And I mean, if you know the kids on the team, Vinny Shaheed, Tyson Ward, these juniors, you get to know that they can really play, one, and two, they can really lead a team. And I wasn't overly surprised by it, but I can see how other people would be, just given how young they were this year.
All right. And so what kind of behind-the-scenes goodies do you have in this month's issue of Bison Illustrated?
Yeah, well, obviously, we're lucky enough to be at pretty much every single home game. Obviously, we're at all the tournament games, too, so we have some, never-before-seen photos that I don't think anybody has seen yet before. Obviously, our cover is an exclusive cover that nobody else has, so it's going to be a lot of cool photos, a lot of kind of a look back on what the journey has been this season for NDSU basketball.
So, in talking to the players who went through this kind of unexpected journey, what was their takeaway? Like, what did they get from the experience?
Well, I mean, I think the experience is invaluable because, I mean, you look at their roster, everybody's coming back next year. Yeah. You can take a look at the way they played against Duke, and I mean, not to mention, they have an NCAA tournament win under their belt now with that win over North Carolina Central.
True.
So they can come back. They have an enormous amount of confidence heading into the offseason, and now this entire team is saddling up for another really big run next year.
That was actually kind of my next question is what do you think is in store for the Bison next year? Do you think they'll be the favorites in the Summit League?
Oh, absolutely. I have a hard time believing, just with what South Dakota State has graduated, what other teams have graduated, there's not going to be another team as experienced as North Dakota State next year. I think they're easily the preseason favorite to win the conference.
That's awesome. And so do you think that might result in a bit of a higher seed, maybe a chance to more upset potential?
Yeah, I mean, everything has to pan out. We have to see what their non-conference schedule looks like. There's a lot of unknowns right now. Obviously, we're talking in mid-April, but I think that this team has the potential to be a 12 or a 13 seed in the NCAA tournament next year. They have the talent, and obviously a 16 seed this year. They definitely have the talent next year to do a 12 or a 13 seed.
And they won a game as a 12 seed in the past.
Yes, they did over Oklahoma.
So that they got some history there. So that'll be really, really fun to see. A lot of hope going into next year.
Absolutely. A lot of excitement, too.
That's the exciting thing, that there's a lot of hope. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You can get Bison Illustrated and all the other Spotlight Media publications for free at places all around the town. You'll probably be able to find one pretty easily. And we're back with one last check of the weather after the break.